Where were Okita and Heisuke? Am I gonna have a choice between the two? Because that would make my life a lot easier. It had sounded like a good idea at the time. Like all good things do, it had sounded like a good idea at the time. But as I looked around that Charnel house, I realized that there was no way I could possibly carry 2 men outside. She's just imagining herself like, hoot, hoot, cute boys on each side, I'm gonna save both of them. Maybe once she got in, she's like, okay, maybe I'll just pick one cute boy. Just leave the other to die. Easy choice. I decided I had to look for Okita. That made my life a lot easier. I knew I'd caused trouble for him during the afternoon patrols, but he'd never called me out for it. It seemed only fair that I'd try to return the favor in some way. Ah! Shiro. Ah! A Ronin exploded out of nowhere, falling down the stairs and screaming. My Kodachi was in my hand before I'd even realized I'd drawn it. Once again, Kodachi, a little bigger than a dagger, not necessarily a samurai sword. He was halfway up when Kondo's sword slid through his heart. Upside, this is the first time all game that we were finally, like, armed and ready. We're like, alright, let's go. Let's do this. Finally, I'm gonna do the cutting thing. Oh no! I just watched a man die! I'm sorry, she's just so bad at this. I just wanted to, she's gonna get there, I know she is. Just wanted to try a little harder. So I don't have to use silly voices all the time. You! What are the rest of our men doing? What are the rest of, I'm here. I'm here, Kondo. You know, the rest of the men? No. It's me. It's my little sword things and Senpachi, Kenpachi thingy, and we're gonna cut up some big men. It'll be like 3 Musketeers, except I'm actually Ronin. He did his best to keep his tone calm, but I could tell my appearance had both surprised and worried him. I'm sorry, but can you go see Soji? He's upstairs with one of them damnable Ronin. I doubt he'll lose, but he could still be hurt. His opponent looks to be a difficult one. Yes, sir. Walk in and be like, hey, what's going on over here? Stab! Right in the back. Haha! Nodded quickly and ran off through the carnage. La la la, la 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 la. He's upstairs! Thank you, Chizuru. I mean, I think the narrator could have told us that, but you can scream it out loud too. I took them 2 at a time, taking stairs 2 at a time, and landed hard on the top floor. Not like we're not taking men 2 at a time with our little sword. That would be awesome, but close enough. Didn't take long to spot him, because it's a big room and 2 men are fighting in it. Oh! Only feet from me was Okita, locked in battle with the Ronin. I felt my stomach lurch. Oh my god, if we have to watch another battle, I'd be so sad. The cold ring of steel against steel tore through the air, and their blades flashed lines of light in the darkness. Sup? Dibs on this guy. This is the best you can manage. Strange Ronin's eyes narrowed and his mouth curved into a smug smile. I had seen Okita train with the soldiers and his skill with a blade had been clear, but this Ronin, the way he dodged and parried and slowly drove Okita back seemed almost lazy. Well, I think that's about enough of that. It's time I was off. Try and follow and you won't get any mercy from me. The blood and violence that was choking the inn had no effect on him, it seemed. He was so peaceful, in fact, that he hardly looked as though he belonged in the middle of all that carnage. Sorry, pal, but I can't do that. You're our enemy, so you've gotta die. A smile split his face for half a second, then he launched himself at the Ronin. Their swords slammed together. I hadn't watched them fight for long, but to my untrained eye, it looked as though the Ronin was a self-taught swordsman. His sword moved in large, crude arcs, while Okita responded with skill and finesse. Oh, so that's the kind of gentleman he is. I understand now. In a contest of skill, Okita would have been the clear winner, but as their blades sprang apart, it was always Okita who found himself pushed back. The Ronin's sword was heavy but fast. It was clear that he was obviously overcompensating for something. The summer heat had turned the air thick and humid. I could barely breathe. Sweat poured down my spine and beaded on my face as fast as I could wipe it off. Let's rewind. I just want to read that again. The summer heat had turned the air thick and humid. I could barely breathe. Sweat poured down my spine and beaded on my face as fast as I could wipe it off. Just do something, please. Nearby, a bowl sat unattended on the floor. If I could use that to distract the Ronin for a moment, I knew that I would give Okita the opening he needed. I just wanted to do something, even if it's so benign. With every ounce of strength I had, I hurled the bowl straight at the Ronin. There you go! Alright! Oh! Almost without thinking, he turned his blade and smashed the bowl to the floor. 'Cause he has the force. The moment of distraction gave Okita his opening. He leapt forward. Even caught off guard, the Ronin managed to get his blade up in time, but the blow sent him stumbling back a step or two. An angry look at his face. Keep throwing! Not just one, just keep going at it. As Okita lifted his sword to point it at his opponent, he whispered in a voice so quiet only I could hear it. Good job, Chizuru. Ah yeah. I knew now wasn't the time to bring it up, but I was happy to know I'd been able to help. Throwing crockery at bad guys. That's what Chizuru does best. Pathetic. The strange Ronin's sword whipped through the air, little more than a silvery blur. Okita caught each blow as best as he could, but a particularly powerful strike from above was too much for his skill to counter, and he stumbled. Though he might not have shared Okita's skill, the Ronin was no fool, and Okita had given him an opening even a child could exploit. Arrgh! The Ronin's foot connected with the center of Okita's chest. Whatever the source of his tremendous strength was, it apparently extended to his legs as well as his sword arm. I thought I heard a wet crunch as the kick connected, and Okita stumbled across the floor of the room. When at last he stopped, I saw him grip his chest with one hand and cough. Blood. Okita! I leapt across the room. Are you alright? His face was tight with pain, and the most he seemed able to manage were labored gasps and wet, tearing coughs. Okita was in no condition to fight. As I struggled to move myself under his arm to lift him up, I glared at the strange Ronin. Do you mean to try and stop me as well? Fight me if you wish, I've no compunctions about killing a child. I watched the tip of his blade drift up to point straight at me. With a groan of pain, Okita lifted himself up and stumbled between me and the Ronin. In case it hasn't been clear yet, I'm saying that all of these sword fights are about penises. It's true. It's true. No, Okita, you can't! There was a good chance he had broken bones, and if he was coughing up blood, then his internal organs could be damaged as well. Very insightful, Chizuru. He could barely stand, let alone fight, and he had to have known it just as well as I did. But he stood firm. You're fighting me, right? Leave the kid alone. The Ronin sneered. What a fool. Just what do you intend to do? You're wounded, possibly fatally. You can't scarcely stand. Shut up! I've still got some fight left, you bastard! As he shouted, new flecks of blood appeared on Okita's lips. Stop that! You're still coughing up blood! The Ronin regarded us with cool, disinterested eyes for a few moments, then in one smooth motion, lifted his sword and slid it home into his scabbard. What? The moment their meeting was interrupted, my business here was at an end. His voice was as cool and aloof as his eyes. He lifted one foot to the broken windowsill and leapt out into the thick night air. He ran. No, he hadn't run, he was letting us go. I feel like the narrator, Chizuru, is just like angry that narrator Chizuru is trapped in silly Chizuru's body and can't like express itself in some weird way. And so it just has to like at least tell us just to get it out. Like, no, Chizuru, no. He's not running. He just let us go. Damn it! I can still fight. Okita. His voice was weak. Why did you do that? Okita turned his head to look at me. You always said you'd kill me if I got in your way. So why had he protected me? He raised a shaky eyebrow. Yeah, why did I do that? Because we trapped you in a dating sim. His words were already beginning to slur. I'll figure that out later, but I've really gotta kill that. Okita! His eyes fluttered and his body sort of kinda folded as he collapsed to the floor. Huh? I'd been so worried about Okita I hadn't noticed. The sounds of screaming men and clattering swords had disappeared. Is it over? The moment the words were out of my mouth, I heard the sound of labored footsteps on the stairs. So what's our score? Like, 1 for Chizuru throwing a pot at someone, and 0 for Okita. None for you, Okita. And then the sun came up. The raid itself had only lasted 2 hours. But for me, at least, it had felt far longer. There had been 20 Imperial Nationalists at the Ikeda Inn. The Shinsengumi had killed several Ronin and injured 4 more. I learned later that with the help of the Aizu domain and the Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner, they had arrested 23 people. The owner of the Ikeda had also been arrested for trying to help the Choshu rebels escape. The Shinsengumi had won an incredible victory, fighting against superior numbers in enemy territory, but they had paid dearly for it. Okita had taken a blow to the chest and lost consciousness. Heisuke had been cut on the forehead and the bleeding refused to stop. Nagakura had injured his left hand. One of the Shinsengumi's soldiers had lost his life at the inn's rear entrance, and 2 others had been severely injured there as well. It didn't seem likely that they would survive. Kyoto military and judiciary committees, run by the Aizu and Kuwana domains respectively, had also fought Choshu Ronin. With their successful resolution of the Battle of Ikeda Inn, the Shinsengumi had at last made a name for themselves. It looked as though the peace in Kyoto had been protected. Never could I have imagined what the ultimate result of their victory at the Ikeda Inn would be. That was a quick recap. Meanwhile, what is this now, 3 months later? August of 1864? I believe we've almost been at this place for a full year now. After the fight at the inn, I was able to leave the compound much more often. I suppose after what I'd done, Hijikata thought I'd earned a little more trust. I didn't feel like I'd done anything that extraordinary, but I wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. On this particular day, I was out on patrol with Harada in the 10th Division. Excuse me, Harada? The Shinsengumi was out patrolling all day and patrolling day and night, right? But what exactly is it that you do? Most of the men in the Shinsengumi were intimidating, death-dealing titans, but Harada was a rare exception, warm and friendly. Well, I guess we do just about everything. Obviously, we arrest people who decide they want to test out their swords on the townsfolk, and we go after people who steal or don't pay for their food. Sometimes we break up fights. People who don't pay for their food? And then there are those chumps who think they'll make a living leaning on the merchants. We take care of all that. Wasn't really the answer I'd expected. Most of the stuff they did wasn't nearly as dramatic as I'd thought. As I thought back, I remember how exciting they'd all have been when they were preparing for the raid on the Ikeda Inn. Now I understood why. What they'd done at the inn was a good deal more intense than their day-to-day work. A little further down the road, a couple of men in Shinsengumi blues were waving at us. Nagakura! So they're like police, but also nobody will even be close to them in the streets, going day to day. So they're just like the police, but more vigilante justice. So they're just like the police. Nagakura! Our separate rounds had brought us to the same spot. That's never good when these two come together. Hey there, Chizuru. Find anything about your dad? Shook my head. No, nothing today. Ah, come on, cheer up. There's always tomorrow, right? Yeah, you're right. There's something contagious about his optimism. Well, Shinpachi, find anything exciting? Nah, nothing particular, but, well, all the people in the street are acting busy, you know? Hadn't noticed it before, but he was right. They were acting strange, almost nervous. Yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to move. Haruta nodded. You think maybe they're worried about getting caught in the middle of a war? What? War? There wasn't a war, was there? Oh, you didn't hear. Well, those Choshu bastards are showing up around Kyoto again. That's why we've got extra watches these days. Well, we did give them a bit of a bloody nose at Ikeda. I can't imagine they'll just stand around with some of their guys in the ground. Were the Choshu going to try something again? They think they can step to this? No, not today. Shinsen and Gumi were doing their best to keep order in Kyoto. In fact, they'd saved the city from the rebellious plans of the Choshu once before with their victory at Ikeda Inn. Yes, I was here for that. It was like 2 minutes ago.